Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Decode panel. I'm excited to be joined by leaders, some of our top strategic agencies, to dig into the role that Headless WordPress plays for their team and their clients. We'll start off first with some introductions so you can get to know our panelists, and then we'll dive right in for the chance to learn more about how Headless can help you win more. Dave, would you like to start us off with an introduction?
Sure thing. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave DiCamillo. I am the CTO of Code and Theory. We are a digital-first creative agency. Over the years, we sort of cut and made our name doing publishing platforms, so very content-focused. In our first experience, probably doing headless, was probably back in about 2017, 2018. Our current site is headless, and we're doing a lot of work today with a lot of clients, and it's sort of the predominant architecture we're driving towards. But good to be here and look forward to the discussion.
Hey, Scott, you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hey, sure thing. Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Jones. I'm the CEO and founder of Illustrate Digital. We specialize primarily in the WordPress platform and have a real strong focus on creating frustration-free and engaging user experiences across everything we do. We're still quite new to the headless game. We've been carrying out research and development for 12 months or more, built our own framework for headless WordPress. And yeah, we're sort of still in the early days of that and excited to keep talking about it.
Thanks so much, Scott. Adam, you want to jump right in?
Yeah, great. My name's Adam. I'm Adam Davey from CandySpace. I'm the Director of Technology. There we are a London-based digital agency focused on designing, building and optimizing digital products. We started our headless journey a couple of years ago now and are constantly having conversations with clients about headless and right in the middle of a headless build right now. So it's an exciting journey and I'm looking forward to talking today about it.
All right, Dennis, do you want to wrap us up with intros?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dennis. I am the Vice President of Digital Experience for Wpromote. We're a performance marketing agency driving growth for challenger brands. My team started down the path of headless in 2019. Have been doing it ever since. We actually adopted the WP Engine Atlas product last year and successfully launched a headless site within 2 months. So super excited about sharing our story.
Thank you all for joining us. So we're here with an audience that's going to have probably a fairly varied background and experience with headless. Some folks that are just starting on the journey, some that have been journeymen in regards to headless. So what I would love to hear a little bit more about is when in each of yours, either professional career or at your agency, was it like, okay, it's time. This is either the opportunity or it's the inflection point where headless is something our team needs to lean into. So what was that kind of breaking point that that had you jump right in? If you want to jump in first, Dave.
Sure. We adopted it very early on, and I promise you it was because it was cool and it was on all the blogs and everyone wanted to do it. And that's probably why we first started. But the practical applications really started to come in with, a lot of our clients having existing MarTech or existing video player platforms or other software that they did not want to part with and said, look, we're happy to do this new headless approach. We've heard a lot of good things about how we can manage data better, how we can be more flexible from a UI perspective, how we can integrate new third-party products in the future more easily. And I think we probably started really commercializing releases for our clients somewhere in probably 2019. It's been sort of the dominant, again, like the dominant, architecture that we sort of lead with a lot of our clients. Yeah, I mean, we're very excited. We're doing a number of WP Engine Atlas installs. We have one coming around the corner in a couple of weeks too, which is great. Yeah, that's sort of our at least initial journey with headless.
So Adam, you mentioned, kind of you're on the cusp of it. I'd love your take, since it might be a little bit more recent of what's starting to kind of send you in that direction.
Well, with that particular client, they'd already. It's often a complex decision, isn't it? Which CMS technology you're going to use, but this particular client actually had an idea exactly as to how they set up and configure the CMS and how they manage their content. So it was an unusual one. We didn't really need to take them on that journey. They decided on a headless CMS and they decided on a way of serving that content at the front end across multi-channel. But very often that's not the case. I mean, that was a technically astute client, but very often we have to equally, we have to take people on a journey. And I would say, we're also building another site at the moment where the client wants a WYSIWYG editor to be able to manage their content. So it really is all about use case. And headless solves lots of problems and can slot in, as you said, David, slot into existing stacks. But there isn't a one size fits all. It is about having a nuanced and detailed conversation with client about requirements. And different clients are at different stages of their maturity curve with digital and with headless and with CMSs, of course. So it's about meeting them where they are on that journey, really.
Yeah, Scott or Dennis, any thoughts to add to that as far as what kind of any indicators of when it might be time for folks that are just on the cusp of adopting headless that you saw in y'all's journey?
Yeah, I think for us it's similar to what Dave said. Really, it was that we were reading about it. It was something that was out there. People seemed to be doing it and struggling with it. And actually, our first headless project was a rescue project, and it was a nightmare. Honestly, it was a nightmare. A client came to us with a really bad headless implementation, some very questionable technology choices. Every page took about at least 30 seconds to load, which is mind blowing. And that was sort of our first foray into headless, and it was messy to say the least. What the challenge for us has been over a number of years with looking at headless has been actually building the in-house expertise around JavaScript, essentially. And that challenge, I think, was sort of pushed along and helped along by, the sort of rebuilding of WordPress into a React-based platform, and I think that's really taken us on the journey. So it's actually come hand in hand quite well for us with bringing that expertise in, creating a better understanding with our developers, and then furthering that journey into what we actually deliver to our clients as well.
Yeah, I mean, for our team, the driver is really our engineers and our developers, and doing a retrospective on how do we continue to improve our agency, how do we continue to improve our process. They're adamant about headless. For me, the analogy was thinking about my dad, who's a mechanic who works on cars 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. When you do that for 10 years, 20 years, you really get to know what car brands, what engines you like to work on. That analogy is the same for me for our engineers. And they saw headless as an opportunity to be more efficient in the work and the drive better delivery. So for us, it was driven by our engineers as a way to be challengers and be innovative. We started to identify clients that we thought would be a good fit. We presented options to those clients and said, you have the option of going headless, where we think there's improvement in the way that we develop your website versus traditional. And as clients started onboarding, we started that journey late in 2019 and have not looked back since.
Thanks, Shona. So we all know and love WordPress. That's why we're here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we also are all very familiar with some limitations there. And obviously, headless is a way to maintain the familiarity and the reliability of the WordPress backend for our content creators and our marketers, but also be able to address some of those limitations that WordPress presents. So, if anyone would have a particular use case or even a specific client project where you found that, okay, we can't abandon WordPress because of these of the needs and the requirements for the client as far as content management is concerned, but we're going to need to go headless because there are some limitations. I'd love just some real life examples to kind of get folks some inspiration when thinking about their potential projects down the pipeline.
Sure, I can start if you'd like.
Thanks, Dave.
So the one that is around the bend for us, the Atlas project that's coming up, they are a DMP, right? So they are a SaaS-based provider. They have been on WordPress for years. However, they want to integrate a lot with their own software, right? So the architecture itself needed to really reflect both their desire to still be operational with WordPress and being able to publish effectively, right? They don't want to retrain the team, but they also wanted the deeper integrations into their own products and beyond. So we've also been able to help them, expand on what they can do with content on their site. So they were pretty nascent in what they were able to do prior to the redesign that's coming. But using even the Atlas content modeler, right, and being able to provide a deeper, more robust, content model for them to publish against, provide deeper personalization, provide that ability to talk to their customers in a more one-to-one way, is going to be a real game changer for them. So WordPress was a firm requirement going in, and given some of those, goals of the project, it just made complete sense that Atlas was the application. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah,
Anyone else?
Yeah, for one of our clients last year, we did this analysis of a number of different platforms, native headless platforms, WordPress with WP Engine, and really evaluated on two factors. Number one is going to be the features and functionality that the client needed out of the platform. And then number two is really the total cost of ownership for the platform. We went through this thorough analysis and ultimately landed on WordPress with WP Engine and Atlas as a solution from a cost perspective and the flexibility of the platform, and really the familiarity with the marketing teams. And by taking a component-based approach to our development process, we were able to effectively create a website that allowed the business user that's already familiar with WordPress to already leverage the power of that platform, but be able to deploy components within their web page, so that as they're building new landing pages or new experiences on their site, they don't necessarily need to rely on a developer to deploy those new landing pages. And we've seen a tremendous improvement in their delivery speed thereafter from that launch. So it was a very interesting project in the sense that we spent a lot of time doing this upfront analysis, and then as soon as that analysis was done, it's a very quick time to market, and the client's been very, very happy with the results.
I like to hear it. Scott, Adam, any thoughts to add on this?
Yeah, just conversely, this is a slight deviation, but we've actually seen a client recently move away from headless after not with Atlas, of course, but like on a different platform. I won't mention that platform, but they had such a bad time because they weren't able to manage their content effectively. They've come back to Gutenberg, which is a really, we don't want to see that happening. But I think what we don't want to do is force headless on people that aren't ready for it. And it is a leap for marketing teams, I think, and it isn't right for everybody. But it also unlocks a whole load of powerful capabilities if you're managing content multi-channel at scale. Like, this is where headless and content modeling can really unlock a lot of opportunities for you. So, we don't want to see people scared off by headless, and we want to suggest solutions that are right for them. But I've seen a lot of benefits of headless, but it is all down to use case and best fit.
And you bring up a great point of the responsibility to your client first, right? That not to lead with the tech, to lead with what's best for your client. And I think we're seeing is an interesting inflection point for headless adoption around of what's actually right for the client versus what is the new bright shiny tech. Scott, anything to add kind of some examples that you've seen?
I would just throw in there and say, I think we're all sort of nodding when there are comments around headless being implemented, badly in the past and that sort of thing. And I think that is the important point, really, is do right by your client. That is what I would say on this is, if you're not ready, don't do it. So, there's always a little bit of, you need to sort of, put yourself out there and have a go if you've not done it before. But actually, WP Engine and the Atlas sort of project have got plenty of tools, plenty of resources to be able to help to go on that journey. I think when we all started out on this journey with headless, those tools didn't exist, and we were all, building things like post previews from scratch, most likely, for most of us, and having to do things that weren't, in a platform like headless now has. So yeah, I think I would say, get involved in the WP Engine blueprint and have a try, but definitely, always anchor back to do right by your client, and don't be one of those, deliverers who doesn't deliver, so to speak, and ends up reversing the process back to Gutenberg again.
Thanks, gentlemen. I think we covered in a really thorough way kind of the benefits to the client of why you might recommend a headless architecture. I'm interested to hear what's the benefits for your internal team, right? For your dev team, for your project managers, for your QA team. Where have you seen taking this kind of leadership role in headless adoption see kind of the water eyes for your internal teams?
Adam, you can start though.
Yeah.
I am a big believer in making sure everybody has buy-in. Like, I love what you said, David, about playing with shiny stuff. And that's what I want to give developers the tools that they can do their best jobs with. But it's also really important that the buy-in comes in at every level of the business. So, yeah, that the content managers are happy, but also, you know, the stakeholders are happy at every level. I've seen it where products have been sold and it hasn't been quite right. There needs to be complete consensus and complete buy-in. You need to take everybody with you on that journey around technology decisions. And yeah, for me, yeah, again, it's about a balance, and it's about making the right decisions for the right reasons for the business and the customer, right? Because we often, you know, like a lot of the decision making around headless is us being able to deliver a super fast experience with a really lovely, clean front end that's rich and intuitive and gets really nice lighthouse scores and all of those good things that the developers love working with. So it's a complete, yeah, it's a mix. It's like getting all of those ingredients right is really important.
Tell you who loves headless in our shop is our designers, who feel a lot less limited. You know, our React engineers love it too. I mean, they're just going crazy about like, what can we possibly do and how fast can we make this? And, you know, the whole thing, everything you're saying, Adam. But I think the real ability for us to extend some of the creativity beyond just, you know, what a normal publishing site would be, a normal content driven site would be, I think has been very eye-opening for some of our team, even just beyond the technology folks. I will also say that from a technology perspective, it definitely increases the time to deliver in some capacities, right? Testing for us has gone up, which is not a bad thing. It's the right thing to do for the right product at the end of the day. But we do have seen about an increase about like 15 to 20% in just that final polish before we go live, making sure all the connections are you know, tied down.
Yeah, I think
That's a good tip. That's good insight to when you're looking at estimating, you know, in your early in your first headless projects, make sure you're taking that into consideration of, hey, that last 20%, the QA, the launch and everything, know that that could take a little bit longer when you're first getting, you know, your first couple of projects off the ground. Sorry, Dennis, go ahead.
Now, I just wanted to build on that. I mean, in terms of like looking at the operations of our digital experience team, our development team, I mean, a few things come to mind. And it really started to hit our stride in year number 2, towards the end of year number 2 in our headless journey. And so objectively looking at the performance of their team, we absolutely saw the defect rate go down. So by decoupling the front end from the back end, our bugs and issues that come from deploying code in the back end was not affecting the front end. And overall, we're deploying cleaner, better code, which is fantastic to see. To David's point, the time to market was significantly faster than we've had in the past, again, because of that decoupled architecture. So when a client needed a minor change on the front end, we didn't have to schedule it with a back-end update for deployment. So everything was moving faster there. And I think what's also been interesting for us as we think back about the last couple of years is changed the way we think about resourcing our team. So before, I really needed somebody that knew WordPress and could code on the front end, and we deal with a lot of e-commerce clients as well and know the e-commerce platform. But now I'm able to hire a pure React front end engineer that has no understanding of the back end and get them productive within a matter of weeks. Whereas in the past, we needed to develop some competency for the backend platform. So that's been really, really good to see as an operator for our team.
What about you, Scott? Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, I've spoken to a few different agency founders on their approach to headless, and somewhat have been similar to ours, which is actually as the agency founder, I wanted to do headless, and it wasn't necessarily the rest of the team that were yet ready or engaged to go on that journey. And you know, speaking into Adam's point, really for us, that has been a journey of culture and of purpose and understanding our why as a company. And I know that might sound really cliche, but that has been really important. If our team, especially our developers, understand the why of our business as we go along, and they understand, you know, what are we actually trying to solve for the client? What are we actually trying to deliver? We want the most engaging, the most frustration-free experiences we can possibly deliver. How do we do that? And how does technology play a part in that? Has been a really interesting conversation. And that has been the thing that's taken them on the journey. Because, yeah, we had some very firmly folded arms and grumpy faces when we first started talking about headless. and I'm sure you've all probably been in that situation as well. And it has been making sure we're having those conversations, making sure they understand the why that has actually, changed that dynamic for us very, very much.
So keeping on the theme of kind of velocity and efficiency and all those sexy fun words that actually are super important in the agency space, uh, do you have an aha moment that you can share, whether it was a certain piece of technology, maybe it was a certain change in your process, maybe it was just using literally different vocabulary that you were like, oh gosh, if I had known this 2 years ago, we'd have been more profitable, we'd have worked faster, people would have been happier, that maybe you could share with folks, an anecdote that you could share with folks that are earlier, a little more earlier in their headless adoption journey. I'm not asking for secrets of the, trade secrets, just a light bulb moment, perhaps.
I'll just jump back in on my point if that's okay.
Awesome.
For me, and like I've got a more client facing role than a technical role, right? And so I'm always thinking about business case and how to build a business case, and I'm obviously thinking about that externally. What I wasn't necessarily doing was thinking about that internally and bringing that same business case back to our developers, back to our designers, project managers, to our team. Once they started to see some of the reasons that clients would need headless. So, for example, being able to store maps natively on a mobile device. You might be halfway up a mountain. You need that map stored natively. You're not really going to be able to do that with monolithic, I guess, headless and WordPress. And showing some of those use cases, I think they were sort of I get why a client would want this. I get why a client would actually want to serve one, base of content to two different front ends. Actually showing them some of that has been the aha stuff for us alongside the cultural stuff.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, just jumping in there. I guess one of my ahas, was we work with all kinds of clients with all kinds of complex business needs, but what clients sort of often lean on is a solution that apparently does everything for them, like an all-in-one suite, which often can be really, really powerful for them, right? But that Swiss Army knife, they probably end up only using a blade or two out of the whole kit, right? And that's what we see. So the aha moment for me is like clients are now thinking about buying one part of a stack that does something really, really well, and it's the best at doing that one thing really well, and then just layering up your stack with other components that do their job really, really well. So the aha for me is, I guess, witnessing clients over the last few years, and actually the kind of pivot, the shift towards buying what you need, something that's best in class, that delivers really well on what it's supposed to do. Like I say, that suites and DXPs do have their place, but we're increasingly seeing headless being slotted in as a part of a wider ecosystem of technologies that just does one job excellently. I think that's been the last 2 years. That's the change we've seen.
Yeah. I agree. And I think the explosion of MarTech tools and being able to take the best in class and integrate it, not just now, but off into the future, right, is, really the reason to select headless, right? Those DXPs, yeah, they're great, but you're right. Most clients of ours use 10%, 20% of what they're paying for, and they're not getting the value that if they actually worked with these smaller MarTech providers, that they actually get the support that they need. They can actually use the features better. But yeah, one thing that we try to coach a lot of our clients on is that it's not about getting live with headless. It's about looking at the future of what you want to do in the first 12 months, right? It's like when you're launching a headless site, at least in our world, it is more about the MarTech stack that we're putting in play than just the CMS, right? We're trying to enable some different features, personalization, ABM tools, you name it, all that stuff kind of comes into play. And, we want to strip back clients to get to a point where they're launch ready, and then look at what does that first 12 months look like, right? They're going to continue to grow, right? We like to say the first day of the website, it's its worst day. You're there to take the website and grow it from that point. And if you're thinking longer term, thinking what that first launch point looks like plus 12 months. I think that really solidifies a good case for headless, especially when you're not DXP related, like Adam's saying.
Any thoughts on that one, Dennis?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the aha moment for us was as we actually saw organic performance improve 3-4 months after launching a headless site. And that was when starting to kind of promote that. It's like, this is really happening. And this is part of why we're doing what we're doing. And seeing that kind of play out has been pretty powerful for us as a group. So, and that's why I think similar to David, the majority of our builds at this point now are headless. Because from the perspective of being a performance marketing agency, our job is to position the website to be a tool for our marketing partners within the agency, and building them a website that can form it makes their job easier.
So we've talked a lot about kind of buy-in internally and the reasons why obviously your internal teams are excited to work in headless. Question for y'all that are actually involved in kind of that upfront proposal sales pitching phase with prospects and current clients. What's the magic bullet that gets their attention? Is it performance? Is it the flexibility? Just kind of a little coaching for our other folks joining us that are starting or pitching Atlas. What are you seeing that really your clients or prospective clients are holding on to and really kind of pushing them over the edge? Because as we know, I mean, adopting new technology, especially for a traditional business, is scary. They're risk adverse. It's switching can be very expensive. So what are you finding that the decision makers, when you're pitching, a headless architecture, are really grabbing their attention?
Yeah, I can jump in here if need be. The one thing we use time and time again are actual product demos, because without showing clients what they're buying and how those platforms work, it's kind of pointless. It's just words, right? So we need to actually tangibly demonstrate how headless works, and there is fear around this. So what we need to do is answer all the questions, show the use cases, explain how the content is modeled and managed, and how those workflow approvals or whatever those kind of features we're using within the CMS actually work. Nothing beats a demo, because otherwise it's just too abstract. We need to actually demonstrate what the capabilities and the power of the platform is. So I would say that's the most powerful tool that we have up our sleeves.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that. But the number one question we get is, what's the day in the life, right? And this is a CMS question in general. Anytime someone's moving to a new platform, it's what's my life going to be like, right? We spend a lot of time in the pitch process actually educating about just high level, what do these different architectures mean, pros, cons, what are the different players in the space, all that kind of stuff. But we never make a decision in the pitch, right? It's always about getting under the hood with the client, to Adam's point, doing demos, bringing in the partners, having them pitch their own wares. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, the agency told us so, but it's another thing to have software makers and the folks come into the table and say, well, here's why we're best, right? We have a very long decision-making process that we kind of coach our clients through, which is based on key business criterias, right? And we want to put up CMS that are the best in their own classes, headless or coupled, right? And let them kind of stand out about, well, what does this mean to your business? Is it going to actually affect it? Here's a raw score. Don't just take Code and Theory's advice, right? Here's a output in a number that says which one is better for your business, and then make an informed decision about which way you want to go.
I mean, for us, when we start a conversation around whether or not headless is the right option for our client, being able to pull up one of our websites that we built and in front of the client live, run a Lighthouse score on that website and show them the score, that's an immediate, all right, tell me more. And then we go down this path of, what is their tech stack or whatnot. But for us, that's always been the biggest conversation starter in any sales opportunity, is to show them what is possible. And when you're getting green scores on Lighthouse, that is near impossible on these other platforms because of a coupled architecture. It really is a powerful story to tell.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of those answers. I think for us, it feels like we're selling FOMO a little bit, really, that fear of missing out sort of approach. And so, aside from the obvious performance and security benefits, and it's, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but we've noticed that actually doing a sort of audit on our client base, we realized our best clients are actually quite strong on technology and quite strong on user experience. They have in-house developers or in-house UX teams or whatever that looks like. They actually understand, and so they've done a bit of research into this themselves. They understand a bit of this. They already sort of have the obvious. The thing that tends to be missing from the mindset is actually selling the future and thinking about, from a development perspective, all of the developers, programmers that are going into boot camps now, I'm generalizing here, but they're learning JavaScript, right? And so if you're still sort of working back in the day, or as we currently are now, you're not quite thinking about where the market's going to go in the future. And I think we've all seen, JavaScript developers have been quite expensive. React developers in particular, they've been very in demand. That's going to change because every new developer is learning this technology and this progressive, set of frameworks. That is the important thing in a business case that actually I'm putting forward to particularly the technology-minded companies, that this is a consideration for you. If you build something now, what's your development team going to look like in 3, 4, 5 years? What's our team going to look like in that time? If you went to another agency and didn't work with us, what would that team look like? And how much would you struggle to get the resource you need based on what we've built? And so, yeah, I'm sort of, looking forward and trying to switch the mindset a little bit there.
Oh, Scott, you took my last question right away from me, which is, it's okay. It's all good. I would imagine folks that attended, I know my first Decode, and folks that this is their 3rd, 4th, 5th year to joining us. I think the weight that headless WordPress and Atlas has carried in our agendas has continued to increase and grow. 3 years ago, I don't know that we had a full track developed to it, and now we do. So as we wrap up, what I would love just to get your kind of magic, if you're looking in the crystal ball and looking ahead, as you are future proofing what your headless WordPress practice looks like, what's on your radar right now? Kind of, maybe you're not spending a lot of time in it, but what's in the back of your head that this is something that's coming down the pipe that we've got to be prepared for regarding a headless architecture? I'll start with you, Dennis. First one up.
Oh goodness, the pressure's on. So, as we think about the future and have a lot of these conversations internally with our team, I think a world of low code, no code is very real. And especially as a traditional systems integrator and SI team that historically done backend integrations. So as we think about that and we think about how the composition of the team will evolve, absolutely design is a core competency, strategy is a core competency. And then front-end development, React.js development, I think it's going to be a core competency. And we're already seeing this kind of shift from heavy backend to heavy front-end, heavy strategy team members as well. So we're positioning our team that way. We think that's going to be the future, and we're going to kind of scale and adjust as things evolve.
What do you think, Adam?
For me, I think composable is the way forward. That's where it's at, and the ability for all these different components to integrate with each other and the interoperability of these different platforms is really important. So I think that ability to communicate and offer best in class, best in breed solution with a stack like that, these platforms are only going to be more and more powerful in that sense. So the ability for these things to integrate together cleanly and for freeing up developers to, like as you were saying, David and Dennis, just really do their best work, and for the designers to do their best work. For me, it's all about composable. I think, particularly with headless CMSs, how they pair nicely and play nicely with that, as you said, David, the MarTech stack, but particularly e-commerce. That's where we're seeing most of the opportunity at the moment, and the biggest conversations that we have are really around headless commerce solutions coupled with headless CMS solutions. And I think that ability to integrate and couple those systems together is going to be really, really key.
Yeah, you took the one that I was going to say as well. I mean, composable web is sort of, new technologies spur new innovations, right? And composable web sort of like the thing that's being built on top of the headless world, which is how do I orchestrate everything? How do I make this all easy for my team to use, right? I have 7 different pieces of MarTech and it's all over the place, but the data sets can all be integrated and they can all be used in one tool. It's actually the number one thing we've seen come back from clients 6 months, a year after. Hey, we love it. It's great, but we need to be more efficient. And what are the tools out there? You know, the stack bits of the world and everything else that's kind of coming around. And it's like the next level of headless integrations. So I totally agree that that's where this is going. Not downplaying any low code, no code. We're seeing all that stuff too. But yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being so gracious and sharing so much with us. This has been super valuable. I know I learned a lot. And I think this is a great foundation for our partners and developers out there that are just now stepping into headless, as well as those that have been on a similar headless journey as your 4 agencies and are 3-4 years in. We appreciate everybody joining us today and hope you enjoyed the rest of the time of your decode. Have a good one.